Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 20th. I'm Shane Seeley, and this is the CBC Morning Report. Leading our news this morning, it appears the only option now for local artists to make any money in entertainment is to leave the country. COVID-19 restrictions here in Barbados have put a stranglehold on the industry, but the situation is creating opportunities abroad for some of the more well-known Bajan artists. Recently, Miami Carnival saw performances from a number of Bajan soca stars, including Bashment Soca Monarch, King Bubba, Hypersounds, and Faith. And across the pond in London, the popular Mole, as you see here, hitting the stage, and Father Phyllis, they were at an event dubbed Libra Affair. Now, Faith, for her part, spoke to the Morning Report about her recent Miami tour where she was booked for 4 separate events. She says she can no longer wait and think about planning for local affairs.
Not locally, like everything is still, look and chance in the wind, waiting to see what's happening, waiting to see if there's a crop over, just waiting. But in that waiting, like we cannot limit ourselves to just what's happening locally. And that's where you find a lot of people are traveling, a lot of people are looking for opportunities abroad because we can't just sit here and wait. Like we got goals, we got dreams, we got things to do, we got lives to live. So that's how I see it.
And while Faith believes taking a COVID-19 vaccine should be an individual's choice, she admits she would use her platform to encourage Barbadians to get vaccinated. According to her, it's the only way for everyone to get back outside in what would be a safer environment.
The only thing I could see, honestly, would be the vaccinations because there are no other measures, in place or nothing else going on really that we could say, well, we could start to implement that or try this, try that. Like there's no curfews, there's none of that. People are just, understanding that it exists and living with it. Obviously still being careful, like when you go into the malls and stuff like that, there are all these sanitized stations, people wearing the mask. When you go to restaurants, people wearing the mask, and stuff like that. But in the facts, in the party atmosphere, there's not much of that at all. So the only thing I could see happening for us is if the majority of Barbados get vaccinated as well. At the end of the day, it's still our individual choice, but that's the only thing I personally can see working for us to get back outside and, into entertainment again.
And Faith also had some advice for artists who are struggling right now to make ends meet.
The first step would definitely be to find another source of income, because if you're just an artist, bank account probably drained by now because nothing is happening. So, find another stream of income that is not too time dependent, that you can say, okay, I'm going to take up and I'm going to go to the States. I'm going to start looking for some opportunities because carnivals are still happening around the world. As we just mentioned, Miami just went on, and I see Miami doing some stuff earlier up in the year. Next year, we have London coming up. So, don't just sit and wait around for handouts. Don't just sit and wait around for things to happen. If you're serious about being an artist, you're going to make some moves, pivot as quickly as you can. So get that source of income coming in and just leave.
Faith, they're giving her take on the current state of the entertainment industry here on the Morning Report. We'll take a break here, but when we come back in our COVID-19 updates, another daily high in the number of COVID-19 cases. 382 new COVID-19 cases, 189 males and 193 females. That's what was identified among the 2,711 tests done by the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory on Monday. The new positives comprise 92 individuals who are under the age of 18. There are now 617 people in isolation facilities and 3,283 in home isolation. Meanwhile, under the National Vaccination Program for COVID-19, the total number of people with at least one dose is 145,648, while those who are fully vaccinated account for 117,900. Meanwhile, Barbados recorded 2 COVID-19 deaths yesterday. This brings the number of deaths from the viral illness to 122. A 51-year-old Barbadian woman passed away at the Blackman and Gollop Isolation Facility, while a 71-year-old Barbadian woman died in primary isolation at Harrison's Point Isolation Facility. They were both unvaccinated. Let's go further afield now. Guyana will soon receive a $150,000 oxygen plant sourced from the United Kingdom. It will be used to treat COVID-19 patients at the Infectious Diseases Hospital.
The $150,000 oxygen plant donated by the Hindu, Somyasa Vaksan, HSS and Siwa Guyana has the capacity to serve 50 patients in need of oxygen at one time. The oxygen plant to be placed at the Infectious Diseases Hospital, located at Lilendal, will cost the donors around $150,000 to be transported by air into Guyana. Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony explained that he reached out to the not-for-profit organizations earlier this year to assist in providing the oxygen plant to cater to a rise in COVID-19 hospitalizations due to a Delta surge.
We do have close to 200 beds, and we have been buying oxygen for that facility. Our ICU set up there, we have moved it from about 8 beds to now about 52 beds, and therefore providing constantly the amount of oxygen is a very expensive exercise.
Minister Anthony revealed that with the new plant, the cost of supplying oxygen to patients will be significantly reduced. Head of the Hindu, Swamyasa Vaksan, also known as Hindus for Selfless Service, Ravi Dev, explained that the oxygen plant would also reduce fatal accidents at the Infectious Diseases Hospital. He elaborated that the plant would reduce the need to have oxygen tanks at the hospital.
Amnesty International is reporting that attacks on freedom of expression by oppressive regimes around the world, combined with a flood of misinformation during the COVID-19 pandemic, may have resulted in lives being lost due to a lack of proper information. More in this report.
The report says oppressive governments shut down independent reporting and silence critical voices about government responses to COVID-19. The report says China silenced journalists when the outbreak began. Citizen journalist Zhang Zhang was detained by police in Wuhan and has been missing since May of last year. Amnesty also says Tanzania, Russia and Nicaragua criminalized what they deemed false news, restricting coverage of information people needed to protect themselves. The report also blames social media companies for not doing enough to stop the spread of false and misleading information. Lisa Maracani is one of the authors of the report and Amnesty International's researcher on human rights defenders. She says the issue took on added importance during the pandemic.
This is something that's been a long time coming. We've seen a closing of civic space and fundamental rights like freedom of expression. They've been cracked down on by countries around the world for a long time, especially certain countries. But in some cases, during the COVID crisis, during the pandemic, we've seen also other countries introducing new measures. And unfortunately, they've used the pandemic to introduce measures such as, criminalizing fake news. And that's a problem in itself because fake news is such a politically charged term as well. It's not simply erroneous or misleading information. It is sometimes, we've seen in practice, is any information that is not particularly liked by the authorities. What we're saying is that we are concerned that this clamping down of freedom of information has become the new normal, and this cannot be the case. We really need to lift all these measures that have been introduced in the past year and a half and previously as well. Because otherwise, how are people going to get the information that they can trust, information that they feel is truthful and independent, and that they can base their, choices, health choices on?
Time now to say good morning to Wendy to find out what's happening on the Wednesday edition of Morning Barbados. Wendy?
Well, good morning to you, Shane, and good morning to our viewers. Well, this morning, coming up on Morning Barbados, we'll be taking a look at reparations. We will be speaking with Mr. Trevor Prescott as well as Akeem about what is happening in terms of these reparations and where we're at now. They have a special task force. We'll also be going in with Dr. Paul Rouse. He is a urologist. He'll be telling us all about UTIs, urinary tract infections, and a number of other issues going on with our bladder, kidneys, etc. to sort that out. And also the COB Credit Union continues to celebrate. They'll be bringing along Dr. Sean Russell, who will be telling us about an alternative spa and how those treatments work. We'll also be looking at Combomere Week and a number of other things coming up for you, Shane.
Up and on indeed, up and on. We'll take a break here, but after the break you'll hear why UWI students are up in arms. Students at the University Cave Hill campus, University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, are upset about the introduction of software to monitor online examinations. Our Wendy Burke tells us the students have launched an online petition to get support for their position.
There's been a large response to Respondus, and not in the positive. Over 2,000 students have petitioned the management of the Cave Hill campus over the new examination management software. A letter from the Guild of Students to the Deputy Principal, Winston Moore, outlined several concerns about Respondus Lockdown Browser, a custom browser that locks down the testing environment within a learning management system. The Guild said they've communicated with constituents and their serious concerns, safety, privacy, and technological issues chief among them. Some students spoke with CBC about their concerns.
It takes over your PC in such a way that it goes straight down to the kernel level. So like it will have control of my webcam, it will have control of my audio, it will have control of my data. Where the data is going, I do not know, and I believe that disrespects the Data Protection Act.
Within the Science and Technology faculty, no one has yet asked us to use this browser. However, I have been able to see the letter, emails, and such that have asked other students of the social sciences management courses and such to download the browser. And the fact that the browser is invasive, you have to scan your entire surroundings with the browser when it first opens up. Not everyone is living in an environment where they are able to have a space to themselves.
It is a significant contributor to examination anxiety, because not only are complete strangers going to be having access to your private information and features on your device, they will also be watching and tracking your every move.
In response, the management of the UWI, in a release issued to the CBC and students, says the software program is aimed at ensuring the utmost integrity of their examinations process, noting that it is used by over 2,000 higher educational institutions. The UWI says the software does not activate the computer's microphone or camera, but seeks to ensure that students' focus and activity during the assessment remain on their examination page. The university also says students who don't want to download the software can do their exams on campus. Wendy Burke, CBC News.
The National Vaccination Campaign's mobile unit has received a major boost. A new vehicle has been added to its fleet thanks to a combined effort from corporate Barbados. Our Shane Jones was at Courtesy Garage for the presentation.
During her last major national address, Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley outlined a plan to step up the work of the mobile vaccination unit. So it was timely when the keys were handed over to the BDF's Chief of Staff, Commodore Errington Sherland.
On behalf of not only the Barbados Defence Force, but the government and people of Barbados, I wish to extend profound thanks to you and the 12 group of companies for this generous donation. You can rest assured that it will be well used as we continue to roll out the vaccine program.
The 12 companies making the donation are all part of the Goddard Enterprises Limited Group. Managing Director Anthony Ali says social responsibility is something all Barbadians must take seriously.
You can see that we've donated this mobile vaccination unit with the intent of being able to get out there, get people educated about the need for vaccination, and hopefully get people to change their mind and eventually get vaccinated. When you look at the impact it's had on our company, it's been dramatic. We have 12 different companies in Barbados, thousands of employees, and we've had to deal with the fact that employees get sick, employees have to take time off. We've had shutdowns, we've had pauses, and it's been extremely stressful.
According to Regional Product Manager at Courtesy Garage, Sam Gaston, the Nissan Urvan is specifically built for the mobile unit.
The vehicle is actually a standard automatic 12-seater Urvan, 2.5 turbo diesel, fully equipped. We did all the restoration work that was done in our workshop at the back. There's provision for them to use a laptop and stuff during the vaccination exercise. So we are very proud that we've been able to achieve this because we think going forward it's easier for us to do. We are actually working on a couple of other projects at the moment to help the vaccination unit.
The mobile vaccination unit services people in communities who are unable to get to the vaccination centers. Shane Jones, CBC News.
A gang that kidnapped the members of a Christian missionary group from the United States is demanding $1 million in ransom per person. The official, who was not authorized to speak to the media, said someone from the gang called in the ransom demand shortly after kidnapping the missionaries on October 16th.
The missionaries were returning to Port-au-Prince after visiting an orphanage in the town of Gantier, which is east of the capital, when their bus was seized by gang members. John Hendren has more now from the mission's headquarters in the U.S. state of Ohio.
A Haitian gang has put a price on the lives of 17 missionaries taken captive in Port-au-Prince. $17 million. The ransom amounts to $1 million for each of the 5 men, 7 women, and 5 children captured by a group called 400 Nawazo as they were building an orphanage. It's a risk Haitian missionaries now face daily.
It is like living in a war zone. You don't know when you're going to get shot at. You don't know when you're going to get kidnapped.
That is a very real concern here in Ohio, where many in the religiously conservative Amish and Mennonite community consider it their Christian mission to fund advancements abroad, even as many of them live much as they did in the 19th century. The ransom demand is a drop in the bucket for an organization that brings in $130 million a year in donations from around the world. But now Christian Aid Ministries has an ethical decision to make. Do they pay it and risk funding the kidnapping machine in Haiti? Or do they refuse and risk the lives of the missionaries they sent there? At the White House, President Joe Biden is getting updates on what is both a crisis for the missionaries' families and a criminal case.
The FBI is a part of a coordinated U.S. government effort to get the U.S. citizens involved to safety.
Armed gangs have stepped up their campaign of kidnapping, extortion, and sexual violence across large parts of Haiti. U.S. officials say they've been trying to help the government cope with the problem.
We realize what a priority this is for the people of Haiti, and that's why we have provided funding to the tune of $312 million in assistance over the last decade alone to strengthen law enforcement and capacity of the Haitian National Police and to maintain peace and stability throughout the country.
Even so, U.S. citizens have been repeatedly warned against visiting Haiti because of the violence and instability. President Jovenel Moise was assassinated in July, and an earthquake struck in August. U.S.-based Christian Aid Ministries is just one of dozens of religious groups doing work in Haiti. Some are now asking whether the U.S. should send in troops to rescue the missionaries, or whether the United Nations needs to expand its peacekeeping operations in a nation where hostage-taking is now, on average, an everyday occurrence.
In sports, Scotland continued to lead Group B of the ICC T20 World Cup after beating Papua New Guinea by 17 runs in Oman yesterday and moved their record to a clean 2-0. The player of the match, Richie Berrington, hit 70 off just 49 balls in Scotland's 165 for 9. PNG in reply slipped to 35 for 5 before being bowled out for 148 in the final over. Josh Davey picked up 4 for 18. Meanwhile, Bangladesh overcame a scare to see off Oman by 26 runs in the second match yesterday to avoid an early exit. Deciding to take first knock, Bangladesh were dismissed for 153 off their allotted overs. Mohamed Naeem led with 64. Oman in reply fell short on 127 for 9. Mustafizur Rahman took 4 for 36, and player of the match Shakib Al Hassan, he took 3 for 28. Here is a look at the highlights. So Bangladesh is still in it. Scotland lead the group though on 4 points, while Oman and Bangladesh are on 2, but Oman has a superior net run rate. Today will be matches in Group A. Namibia are currently taking on the Netherlands in what is the 6 a.m. fixture. Then it will be Ireland against Sri Lanka at 10. All games are live on MCTV's ESPN or channel 308. So you can go and check out all the cricket in action there. Time now for a look at the weather. It's fair on the outside. The temperature not too hot just yet. 27.5 degrees Celsius is where it stands. It's feeling like 33 already though. The relative humidity is 70% this morning. The barometric pressure 1012.3 millibars. Those winds have picked up a bit, still coming out of the east-southeast, but at 22 kilometers per hour this morning. You'll see a low tide at 20 minutes after 9 this morning. The high tide will be around 20 minutes to 4 in the afternoon. Those seas are smooth to moderate in open water. Swells are pretty nice, between 1 and 1.5 meters, holding steady this morning again. Today in Barbados, we'll get a mix of sunshine and clouds with the occasional scattered light to moderate shower. And tonight, there will be a mix of clear skies and clouds with occasional brief scattered light to moderate showers. Over the Lesser Antilles, this is the picture. It will be partly cloudy there with a few light isolated showers. And it will be generally fair over the Lesser Antilles tonight with a few brief light isolated showers. And here's a quick look at the international weather forecast. And that's it for this edition of the CBC Morning Report. I'm Shane Seeley. Morning Barbados starts now.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados, good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Barbados. I'm Wendy Burke. This morning we are going to be looking at reparations, and we are here with the Special Envoy for Reparations and Economic Enfranchisement, the Honourable Trevor Prescott, who is also a Member of Parliament. We're also joined by Akeem Chandler Prescott, and he's a member of the Barbados National Task Force on Reparations. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to you both.
Good morning.
To you.
Yes. Now let's get straight to the meat of the matter. Reparations, we've been talking about it for a while, at the local level, at the CARICOM level, at the university level. And Barbados now has its own special task force, which is looking to get us a bit of what would have been taken from us. Barbados is signatory to the CARICOM agreement on reparations as well. And our task force is trying to build up some support to get the public to join in this fight. Now, for you, Minister Prescott, why is it so important that we as ordinary Barbadians join this fight?
Well, let me say good morning to everybody. Barbados is the main country in the world that ought to be very much in the forefront of this struggle for our mental liberation and compensation for all the damage that have been inflicted on us. Barbados is the model of Western chattel slavery. This is where it all started. I believe that no other country can see this matter of greater importance than the Barbadian people. The challenge which we have here is that the Barbadian people were not exposed to the kind of education that would allow them to see this subject matter as an important one to them, because of the kind of history that they were taught, and because of the language itself of English. Standard English and so on is impregnated with so many different prejudices and disadvantages to the psyche of the Barbadian public itself. So we know that there's a necessity to have some major intensive educational program so that people can be sensitive and educated about what reparation is supposed to do.
I'm glad you spoke about the issue of psyche, because most people, when they hear reparations, are of the assumption that we're just talking about trying to get back money from England, from the colonizers, etc. But it goes beyond that. It speaks to the psychological trauma that many of our forefathers would have undergone in this whole process of slavery and so on. And there's one particular descendant which you, Mr. Prescott, have been agitating against for so very long, and that is Drax. Tell us about that particular passion that you have.
Yeah. Well, Drax is significant just as much as Barbados is significant. Drax is significant because the Drax plantation serve as a major model, not just for Barbados itself, but for the entire Caribbean, and obviously extend itself into North America and South America. Drax, the early relatives of Drax, which would have been James Drax, the present Drax is now called Richard Drax. They purchased that plantation in the, I think, the 1630s for about 300 pounds. They wrote the model, and the text is here, the original text is here of all the directions and the structures of how a plantation should run. They were very much in the forefront of the rules and regulations on how chattel slavery should run. And I want to make that point because there are lots of people who like to say that slavery existed long before, but not chattel slavery. This is a kind of slavery where African people were dehumanized and not perceived as equal or even as human beings. This is unique. This is not the kind of slavery that you had in Rome, or even on the African continent. In many cases, the Arabs were in the forefront of that before the British invaders of the territory. The people still had opportunities for vertical mobility in that kind of system, but in this system, you were less than an ordinary animal.
Okay, but yeah, let's now talk to Akeem about how we are actually trying to empower people to understand all that is systemic and that Mr. Prescott has spoken to. And you've recently launched your campaign to try to encounter. Tell us all about this, My Trident is Broken, and why it's so integral, especially for our younger people, to be on board.
Right, so I would have joined the task force in 2020 December, and I realized the task force was in existence since 2014, and the general public did not know it was in existence, especially people my age. I'm under the age of 30, so the first thing I said to myself is that we need to educate the public, we need to reach people where they're at. So we came up with a social media called My Trident is Broken. That's the name on Instagram. and on Facebook it's called Barbados National Task Force on Reparations. So what we're aiming to do is sensitize the public about the issue of reparations, because too many times when we hear reparations, we think money. And reparations goes so much beyond just a financial sum that's coming to us. It's repairing what has been done to us and noticing the parallels of slavery in present day society, because the past informs the present and it will inform the future. The same way how Richard Jacks is the descendant of a plantation owner, you have to realize his great-great-great-grandfather owned some of our great-great-great-grandfathers. And when they had sons, those sons inherited whatever benefits or whatever hardships that the previous father or grandfather had. So when you have generation after generation after generation being disenfranchised, and you have another generation building wealth off of that disenfranchisement, you get a divide. Social media campaign is to highlight the inadequacies and the inequalities between Black people in the Caribbean, not just Black people in the Caribbean, but Black people around the world, and try to hopefully educate the public that reparations is something that is an ongoing process, and it's something we need to be aware of if we really want to know what a Barbadian identity is, and if we want to reclaim what has been lost through the ages and through history.
And now we're on the subject of reclaiming. Mr. Prescott, for you, the whole issue is that over 600 acres of plantation land needs to be surrendered and given back to Barbados. Now, we know Drax was really a large plantation because we have Drax Hall Jump, Drax Hall Hope. There are about 6 or 7 different divisions to Drax. But can we really agitate to the point where we can get someone to surrender what they see as rightfully being their ownership? It's been passed on to them through the years. Minister Prescott? Okay, he seems to, yes. So Akeem, I don't know if maybe you want to jump in here in terms of this.
Well, this is really Mr. Prescott's domain. But I'm not, I think we're in the process of trying to see if we can do that, because they're not just Drax plantations in Barbados, there are also some in Jamaica, right? And Drax has openly said that, well, I don't want to misquote him, but if we want this plantation, we definitely gotta fight for it to some degree, right? And I don't think Barbadians know that on that Draxall plantation, there are so many skeletal remains, so many bodies of people, African enslaved people, Barbadian descendants, that would have literally built the walls, the foundations, and the entirety of that plantation. So the reclaiming the space is not just a physical something, it's spiritual in a sense. It's also economic in a sense, because that is a large portion of land that can be devoted for use other than just a commemoration of death to some degree. But with respect to how we will do that and how we will go about that, that is something that the government of Barbados would have to figure out and have to go and attempt in a way that I can't even imagine how they would get that done. But that's really a question for Mr. Prescott to answer.
Okay, Mr. Prescott? Yes, we were talking about your insistence that Drax return that property, and how can we really legally go about getting it from him?
Well, we are well informed by legal experts who have had experiences in dealing with cases of reparations across the world, especially in Kenya, dealing with the Momo. And so we know that there is a case, and we know that it is not specifically, as Akim indicated, I didn't hear much of it because we dropped out at a specific point, but it is not just monetary and any form of material compensation. What was most important is to be fully aware that persons who have been involved in this crime, which is the greatest crime against humanity, that these persons at least be civil enough to apologize, knowing that they are beneficiaries of the wealth of this crime. It is felonious. The Drax plantation is only one of many, but it is unique. because Mr. Drax is the wealthiest member of parliament in Britain, and he holds an important position which stands on the principles of integrity. Mr. Drax has refused to even acknowledge which he has at present derived from the criminal extracts of property from Barbados and Jamaica. Where each one of our sovereignties in the Caribbean, we have our own responsibility to do the relevant research. We have the required information. The research has been done, and we're still continuing to do more and more research. A lot of that work is in Britain's Black Death, written by Professor Hilary Beckles, and there's some work I've made to understand written by Dr. Shepherd in Jamaica. So the evidence is there to support anything that we're doing.
Okay.
What is happening is that while we are on this campaign, or even this advocacy, we have other brothers in Britain, in Dorset, has reached out to us, sharing information from Dorset with us in relation to Mr. Drax, and they have given me the assurance they will ask him for the apology. He has not done so. So we that's the first step, because there are many different methods on how we expect to resolve some of these challenges which we have in relation to reparations. And one of the first steps we're making is to reach out and ask people to acknowledge that it has occurred, acknowledge that they've been beneficiaries of the wealth that came from the extracts of slavery, and Mr. Drax has bluntly refused to do so.
That's unfortunate, but the work that you in the task force are doing is quite key, both yourself and Akeem. So I believe we can get on board at My Trident is Broken on Instagram, Akeem. Can you give me a quick update as to what those numbers are like now in terms of those who signed on?
So we've only started the Instagram and Facebook page September 20th, I think it was. So it's only been a month. And since then, we have amassed nearly 300 followers and likes on both of the platforms. This is only phase one. We're hoping to implement numerous phases going forward, which will probably have a YouTube, a Twitter, hopefully some person interaction if COVID permits that. But right now, we're looking pretty good. The videos are doing a lot better than I thought they would be doing in this pandemic. People are very stressed out and focused on so many different things. A topic like reparations, which can be a bit esoteric at times, I didn't think would engage as much young people as it is, but it is engaging the youth, and I am very proud of the numbers so far.
Well, let's hope that they keep climbing. I wish to thank both Mr. Akeem Chandler Prescott as well as Mr. Trevor Prescott, MP, the Special Envoy to Reparations and Economic Enfranchisement. Thank you both gentlemen for joining us here on Morning Barbados this morning.
Thank you very much, Madam Burke.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Morning Barbados will be back.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Welcome back to Morning Barbados, and it's time to talk with the doctor. This morning in the house is urologist Dr. Paul Rouse, and we'll be dealing with issues of the bladder and kidneys. Good morning to you, Dr. Rouse.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again this morning, and good morning, Barbados.
Yes, a pleasure to have you. Now, we're going to be looking at recurrent urinary tract infections, yes? And UTIs, what are they?
Thanks very much for having me again. Although I presented this 2 weeks ago, we were a little pressed for time, and a few of my patients have asked me if we can go over it again, because this is such a common problem in our community, not only affecting women but also men. But recurrent urinary tract infections, or really a urinary tract infection, is really, if we can present the slides, is really inflammation of the urinary tract. So inflammation of your kidneys is called pyelonephritis, which can be acute or chronic. Then it's very unusual to have inflammation of your ureters, but you can also have urethritis. Probably one of the more common things that used to do that would be things like TB, schistosomiasis, and also you can have inflammation of your bladder, and that is commonly called cystitis. Again, that can be acute, and very rarely you can also have a chronic cystitis, chronic inflammation of your bladder. You can also have inflammation of your, and for us men, we have our prostate, so you can have inflammation of your prostate gland, acute prostatitis, and again, that can be chronic. And well, we know about urethritis. Unfortunately, a lot of us would have heard about sexually transmitted diseases. That's the most common form of urethritis, and that's usually dealt with in our sexual health clinics and by GPs. Okay. The reason why this is an important topic is because it's so common. A lot of people tend to treat it themselves using over-the-counter remedies, which are very good, things like cranberry juice or alkalinizing your urine with various forms of over-the-counter preparations like sodium citrate. But sometimes, especially when it becomes recurrent, or technical definition of recurrent urinary tract infections is if you have 2 or more infections within a 6-month period or 3 within a year period, then we consider that as recurrent urinary tract infections. And sometimes this can be a red flag for other abnormalities of the urinary tract. So the odd urinary tract infection is okay, but if you're having recurrent urinary tract infections, you should really see, at least in the first instance, your GP to have this investigated, because we really want to make sure that there's no problems with your urinary system. If you go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
You can, as far as the kidneys are concerned, the key thing we want to make sure is that, next slide, please, is that there's no problems with the kidneys. And the things that you can have with the kidneys is that you can have blockages of the kidney, you can have other problems, more common things like kidney stones, or unusually tumors of the kidneys. So with kidney infection, the classic symptoms are fever, pain in the flank area, that's on the side just below the ribs, in the corner between the ribs and the spinal column. But one of the red flag symptoms of kidney infection that should really be investigated is if there's blood in your urine. If you're seeing blood in your urine, it can come from anywhere along your urinary system. I've gone through this in previous presentations, but with respect to infections, that suggests it's a pretty potentially serious infection. And we also always have to make sure there's no other abnormality of the kidney, and therefore that's why it's important to have this done. All too often in my clinic, I see patients who've had recurrent problems with aortic infections, have not been investigated. A few months or sometimes even years later, then we do some investigations and we found that there's a readily correctable problem, namely obstruction or kidney stones. Fortunately, kidney tumors here are very rare in Barbados, or unusual in Barbados, not rare. And it is sometimes can be a little bit sad that you pick up patients this late when we could have really done something a lot earlier to relieve their problems. Okay. Because the problem with infections is that you spend a lot of time off from work, because when you have those symptoms, running to the toilet, blood in your urine, you just can't work, you can't look after your family members and things like that.
What about cystitis?
Right. So then that is probably the more common form of infection, and predominantly affects women, but it's also common in men, and a lot of times actually men don't seek attention for this because it can mimic, in men, it can mimic other lower urinary tract symptoms, which can be a sign of enlarged prostate, and therefore they tend to soldier on with these symptoms because unfortunately, BPH and lower urinary tract symptoms is fairly common. So the common symptoms of cystitis is that frequent need to urinate, that urgent need to urinate, getting up at night to pass urine. And usually it can cause fever like pyelonephritis, but it's a little bit less common with cystitis. And again, you can also have blood in your urine with very severe, what we call hemorrhagic cystitis. Showing there in the cartoon is just a cystoscopy, which is part of the investigations that will come on to that, that you need to do, that we need to investigate as a urologist in patients with recurrent urinary tract infections.
Okay.
Because cystitis is so common, a lot, especially women, they tend not to get this looked at. But as I said, once you're having these recurrent infections, you should, at least in the first instance, see your GP, have those initial investigations done. They're very simple most of the time. An ultrasound is enough to suffice initial assessment. But when the problem becomes recurrent, we're not, especially if it's associated with visible blood in your urine, that's the time I think you really should have a more formal assessment by a urologist.
So urinalysis would be the ultrasound and any other methodologies?
Yeah. So if we go to the next slide, to the basic investigations that I'm sure all GPs are doing. When you go to your doctor with these symptoms, one of the first things they will do is do a urine analysis. This is a simple dipstick analysis. Most doctors will have this available in the office. You can have a nice simple dipstick analysis, or for example, in my office, I also have a machine that does the analysis for me. And if that is positive, you see blood in your urine, leukocytes in your urine, or white cells in your urine. If there are nitrites in your urine, this is a substance produced by most of the bacteria that cause water infections. These suggest that you have a urinary tract infection. In most cases, we will start treatment right away before we go into the next step, which is on the right-hand side there of the slide, where we do an actual urine culture. And we usually send this off to the laboratory. We would tend to do that in patients with severe infections that don't seem to settle, or again with recurrent urinary tract infections, to see that the antibiotics that we're giving are appropriate for patients. So that would be probably initial investigation that you have initiated by your GP, certainly by myself as well. And then, usually because I'm seeing the recurrent infections, I would then go on to do further investigations, including at least an ultrasound scan of your urinary system. And if we go to the final slide, you can also take a look inside your bladder. So because we can't look at the kidneys directly, that's where you need at least an ultrasound scan to start. If there's any significant abnormality on the ultrasound, then you might need to go on to have a more detailed scan, namely most commonly a CT scan. And then the best way to assess the bladder when it's indicated is literally to take a look at the bladder. This is an endoscopy of the bladder. You pass a very fine, flexible telescope the size of a straw via your water passage, and you literally see it. It's done in the office. You literally see it there on the monitor, and we can see if there's any abnormality of the bladder. I did have a few slides of some of the more common abnormalities that we can pick up and that are easily remedied. They don't need to be dealt with any major surgery or anything like that, and can get patients from this suffering from this chronic infections if it's indicated.
When do you have to go for surgery? What are the greatest complications which would lead to that?
Well, it would depend on the indication. So as far as the kidney is concerned, if there's any obstruction of the kidney, we have to find the cause of the kidney, of that obstruction. One of the more common things would be kidney stones causing obstruction of the kidney, but some cases it could be post-surgical change. It can be tumors or so arising from the kidney. So that's why it's so important to have that ultrasound scan at least initially, and if indicated, for you to go on to do a CT scan. A lot of the times, I would say even 70-80% of our procedures now are mainly endoscopic, and no need to have a major open operation. Not saying that they're not major procedures, major operations, but a lot of it can be done endoscopically, and therefore a lot of patients can be assessed and managed as a day procedure and home the same day.
Okay, so the endoscopic and the cystoscopic are basically the same in terms of the...
Yes, sorry, it's similar.
Okay.
So a lot more people are more familiar with the term endoscopy, so therefore I say it's an endoscopy of your urinary system, and they seem to relate to that a little bit better when I start using medical jargon sometimes. Obviously, you can lose patients if they're not familiar with it.
Finally, what are some of the major red flags that might let us know if they're recurrent? You mentioned that if it's 3 times in the space of a 6-month period, what are the other things that we should be on the alert for?
So most urinary tract infections will settle pretty promptly with appropriate antibiotics. Usually within 24, 48 hours, you should have significant improvement of your symptoms. So if you're not getting improvement of your symptoms, I would say again, in the first instance, see your GP so that you can be assessed to make sure that you're on the appropriate antibiotics. And then also, if there's any, obviously severe pain is another red flag that could suggest that there is obstruction of your urinary system, and therefore we need to deal with that appropriately. And visible blood in your urine is another red flag that you really need to see and be assessed a little bit urgently. Fever, feeling unwell. So yes, you feel pretty uncomfortable with urinary tract infection, but when you start having fever, feeling like you've got flu-like symptoms, especially if you don't settle right away, we always worry about having a severe infection or what we call sepsis developing, or what we would call in layman's term blood poisoning. We don't want that to set in. That can be quite dangerous because it's unusual in urine for the urinary system, but it can be, I don't want to scare anybody, it can be fatal if not managed appropriately. So urosepsis is a very real and severe problem following urinary tract infections if not managed properly.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Rouse, and now you've given us the tips. We will know how to manage ourselves. That's Dr. Paul Rouse, urologist. Thank you for joining us here on Morning Barbados.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Barbados.
It is now 1 minute past the hour of 7, and we now go to Shane for a recap of... So we now go to commercial break, and we'll be back with Shane with some more news.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Time now for a recap of the day's major headlines, and we go to Shane Seeley.
Here's your 7 a.m. headline news, and another historic day for Barbados as the country is set to nominate Dame Sandra Mason as the country's first president. Parliament recently agreed to amend the Constitution Amendment Bill to bring the Republic into force by November 30th. A joint sitting of both houses of Parliament will be held at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre today, from where there will be a declaration of the election of a president. The leader of the opposition, Bishop Joseph Atherley, and the Prime Minister, Mia Moore-Motley, are to address the joint session. Now, leaving the country appears to be the only option for entertainers here to make a living. And that's why some of the more popular ones have been hitting the stage recently in Miami and London. Bashment Soca Monarch, King Bubba, Hyper Sounds, and Faith were among the few who were booked for 4 performances during Miami Carnival festivities, while across the pond in London, the popular Mole and Father Phyllis hit the stage at an event dubbed Libra Affair. Now, Faith spoke to the Morning Report and told me she can no longer wait around for something to happen here.
Not locally, like everything is still, looking us in the wind, waiting to see what's happening, waiting to see if there's a crop over, just waiting. But in that waiting, like we cannot limit ourselves to just what's happening locally. And that's where you find a lot of people are traveling, a lot of people are looking for opportunities abroad because we can't just sit here and wait. Like we got goals, right. We got dreams, we got things to do, we got lives to live. So that's how I see it.
Faith also has some advice for other entertainers who are struggling to make it at this time.
The first step would definitely be to find another source of income, because if you're just an artist, bank account probably drained by now because nothing is happening. So, find another stream of income that is not too time dependent, that you can say, okay, I'm going to take up and I'm going to go to the States. I'm going to start looking for some opportunities because carnivals are still happening around the world. As we just mentioned, Miami just went on, and I see Miami doing some stuff earlier up in the year. Next year, we have London coming up. So, don't just sit and wait around for handouts. Don't just sit and wait around for things to happen. If you're serious about being an artist, you're going to make some moves, pivot as quickly as you can. So, get that source of income coming in and just leave.
Another record in new daily cases, 382 new COVID-19 cases. 189 males and 193 females were identified from among 2,711 tests conducted by the Best Dos Santos Public Health Lab. Looking further at the numbers in the new positives, 92 people were under the age of 18. There are now 617 people in isolation facilities and 3,283 in home isolation. Meanwhile, under the National Vaccination Program for COVID-19, the total number of people with at least one dose of the vaccine is 145,648, while those who are fully vaccinated are 117,900. Meanwhile, Barbados recorded 2 COVID-19 deaths, both of them women. This brings the number of deaths from the viral illness to 122. A 51-year-old Barbadian passed away at the Blackman and Gollop isolation facility, while the other woman was 71 years old, a Barbadian as well, and she died in primary isolation at Harrison's Point isolation facility. Both of them were listed as unvaccinated. And that's where we wrap up this edition of our 7 a.m. Headline News. I'm Shane Seeley. It's back over to you, Wendy.
Thank you, Shane. And we'll go to a commercial break here, but when we come back, we have the crumbs question of the day. 228-5562.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning and welcome back to Morning Barbados. It's time now for our crumbs question of the day. 228-5562, 228-5563. And our question this morning is, the flower fence, a decorative shrub cultivated in Barbados, is known as what? What is this decorative shrub, the flower fence, known as in Barbados? 228-5562, 228-5563, our crumbs question this morning. Let's see how many of these people actually know what it is. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you.
Yes.
And your answer is?
Is the pride of Barbados.
The pride of Barbados. Can you describe for me what it looks like?
It's a fence with a long flower. With a stem pushing out the flower.
And its color?
Yes.
What
red
color
fence.
is it?
Red.
Mm-hmm. Only red?
Red and a little lighter color.
Well, you are correct indeed. It is actually the pride of Barbados. If you stay on the line, they will collect your information and let you know what it is. How did you know it was called the flower fence? Do you have that shrub around your home? Okay. That was our winner, and you can call back 228-5562, 228-5563 to give your information because you were indeed a winner of our crumbs question of the day. Well, now it's time to go to commercial break, and we'll be back with the COB section.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning and welcome back to Morning Barbados. This morning we are going to continue the celebration with City of Bridgetown Credit Union. 38 years for that credit union. And joining us this morning as a guest of the COB is Dr. Sean Russell, an internal medicine specialist. Good morning to you, Dr. Russell.
Good morning, Wendy. Good morning to the people of Barbados. It's a pleasure to be celebrating 38th anniversary of COB. Point of correction, it's actually integrative medicine that I practice, which is a combination of alternative medicine and conventional medicine.
Okay, I guess, and that's part of the reason for your name, 1359 Zen. We're trying to get that balance.
Yeah, well, 1359 Zen, it's what I call a rejuvenation location. Some people may call it a spa, but it's actually more than that. We offer some treatments, cutting-edge treatments in terms of health and wellness, in addition to the traditional spa services like your massages, facials, and pedicure.
So what value added are you giving me that makes you different from the traditional spa I would go to?
Well, typically at the traditional spa, you'd have the services I mentioned, which is your massages, your facials, your pedicures, and so on. But 1359 Zen, we add cutting-edge technologies like PMF therapy, which is an electromagnetic therapy, as well as red light therapy, and we also have a mind machine. So we bring to bear other things that can enhance a person's wellness. So at 1359 Zen, you don't just get massage services, we get services that enhance your overall health. In terms of certain conditions, we also treat at 1359 Zen. People have come with things like alopecia, which is hair loss, arthritis, and so on. And these treatments, basically, you have things like the red light therapy, which uses actual red light, a specific wavelength of red light, to have a healing effect on the body. And that healing effect is done through the delivery of energy to the cells of the body. And by delivery of the energy to the cells function better and the body functions better. Similarly with the PEMF therapy, again, we use energy. So it's actually using energy modalities to energy medicine to help the body heal. And in that case, it's an electromagnetic field which is delivered to the body. And again, it has healing effects. And we also have a mind machine, which is great in terms of relaxation, as well as stress relief, and as well as in facilitating meditation. And what happens is at Zen, we combine these things. So you don't necessarily have to do a massage alone. You can combine a massage with a PMF therapy, or a massage with a mind machine therapy. And so we have a lot more to offer of treatments there. It's more than a spa.
Okay, COVID has left a lot of us stressed out with anxiety, high blood pressure, etc. What does Zen have to offer to those who may be suffering from either COVID fatigue or just exhaustion from thinking about it too much?
Well, the thing is that we all know the benefits of massage. We all also the benefits of the typical spa services, a massage, even the facial, pedicure has a de-stressing effect on the person. But in addition to that, specifically, the PMF therapy has a relaxing effect, it has a healing effect, it has an immune boosting effect. So in terms of what you get, you can have stress relief in terms of a massage. You can have a deeper stress relief in terms of PMF therapy plus a massage, or mind machine therapy plus a massage. Even the red light therapy, and the red light therapy has great properties in terms of recovery. So in terms of people who are physically fatigued, it helps with recovery. In terms of perhaps post-illness, it enhances recovery. So does the PMF therapy. And specifically in terms of de-stressing and relaxation, we have a mind machine. And mind machine, again, is energy medicine, where we use light and sound therapy to enhance the relaxation. Essentially, the brain works like a transmitter. It can receive and it can transmit. And by immersing the brain in waves that influence its behavior, we can, in fact, influence how the person feels. So, for example, their alpha wave, their beta waves, which are alertness, alpha waves, which is less alert, which is in a semi-sleep state, and delta waves, which are deep sleep. And so by delivering those waves to the brain, you can have a more focused state, a more relaxed state, a semi-sleeping state. So for somebody who's stressed, they can become relaxed. For those who want to meditate, the mind machine facilitates the ability to meditate. And so you have a lot of factors here to help de-stress. And in addition to that, you have the PMF mat. So that can actually deepen the experience in terms of stress relief. And also it has, as I said, we do notice some immune boosting properties. I have actually used the PMF therapy for immune disorders. So it does have an enhancing effect. The other thing is certainly that we take all precautions in terms of sanitizing, distancing, masks, and so on. So we take appointments. So you're not going to meet a crowd of people. You can have your one-on-one time. And one of the differences is not everybody likes to be touched. Some people want the experience of relaxing, but don't necessarily want a massage. And here you have an option where you can have a therapy which does not involve touch. It allows you to experience being relaxed without, being touched, if that is your preference. And so you have those options in terms of de-stressing. And as I said, you also have the ability to make sure that your body is more robust, because those treatments definitely do help boost the body's health. And in addition to that, as I said, we have our combinations. So you can have a combination therapy which works well for de-stressing.
Outside of those types of therapies, you also have other issues women might have and that they might think can be done at the regular spa. What about like treatment of things like cellulite, hyperpigmentation? Do you offer anything for things like that?
Yes, that speaks to some proprietary therapies that we have. For example, we have the 1359 Zen PFT massage therapy, but it's actually an anti-cellulite therapy. And that is very effective in terms of reducing cellulite. And it's pretty much a triple approach to reducing cellulite in terms of it's a particular massage technique. We have our own proprietary oils made specially for us, specifically for reducing cellulite. And then we have red light therapy, which is very effective in reducing cellulite as well as other skin conditions. So along with that, there is basically information. You get your leaflet, pamphlet going through the steps to take for maintenance therapy in between the treatments. In terms of we also have our own facial, microcurrent facial treatment. This is usually microcurrent therapy along with red light therapy, and we use the Saluma device. The Saluma device is an FDA-approved device, highly effective in treating skin conditions like acne, wrinkling, aging signs, and also in terms of dark spots like melasma. We've had great results with melasma where you have dark patches on the face. So we do have these additional treatments as well.
Outside of those, are there any other special services which I might find at the spa? Like say, for example, there's a situation where maybe I'm celebrating an anniversary with someone, like how COB is celebrating 38. Can we both come and have some sort of dual service, a small spa party, anything extra that's on the list of services?
Well, one of the mantras for 1359 Zen is the experience. And people who have come certainly can speak to the experience. Certainly it's a second to none service, and we go the extra mile. So we have previously, and we do offer special services whereby for a celebration, an anniversary, in addition to the usual services, which may be just as massage, or maybe massage and mind machine, you may get a fruit plate, a cheese plate, a glass of wine. That kind of thing is available at Zen, and people have had a wonderful experience in doing such things. And I must say that, one of the number one priorities that is service.
Okay, and in terms of what we're all going through now and these treatments, suppose I had the hyperpigmentation issue. Could a one-off red light therapy work, or I have to be back for services? How does it all work so people understand what they're getting when they come to Zen?
Well, as you may understand, most of these things don't happen overnight, so the recovery is one that's going to be overnight. Most processes where the body is repaired or healed, as the word says, it's a process. So some people will notice results right away. Results not meaning immediate reverse problem, but they can see visible changes. Some people it takes a while, and typically for these treatments, it is going to be a course of time, usually maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Everybody heals differently, everybody functions differently, and everybody has different goals. That being said, we usually offer the opportunity for the person to at least have an experience with the therapy, so they can experience for themselves, what is involved.
Okay, I want to thank you so much, Dr. Sean Russell, for joining us here and helping to celebrate with the City of Bridgetown Credit Union. City of Bridgetown Credit Union at COB Credit Union, telephone number 430-5900, or you can reach them on their website, www.cobcreditunion.com, or their email, info@cobcreditunion.com. Thank you again very much, Dr. Russell, and do have a brilliant morning.
Thank you, Andy, and you.
Morning Barbados will be back with more.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning and welcome back to Morning Barbados. This morning we're going to be looking to manage those managerial challenges. And to help us we have Ms. Joan Underwood, who's a coach, talent development specialist, a master trainer, and a change practitioner. Good morning to you, Ms. Underwood.
And good morning to you, Wendy.
Yes, now this morning we are going to be looking at how to become changeable. How do we get there? How do we go past those blocks? Now, from your first aid manual, I understand that there are a number of emotional responses that we will all go through in trying to become agents for change and manifesting toward that change. Take us through some of those emotions.
Okay, well, first off, a minor correction. It's not actually becoming changeable, but becoming change able to change. And as human beings, change can be very uncomfortable. And the thing is, we resist change because of concern over the unknown. So we get comfortable, if we're off our mark, if we're not sure what's going to be happening. So one of the first emotions that we can associate with the need for change is some level of anxiety, concern, apprehension. It may even elevate to the level of fear of the unknown.
Okay, now, why would I be fearful of encountering change within the workplace or showing my staff how to move from this level to the next?
Because as human beings, uncertainty, unless you're someone who, is an avid risk taker, uncertainty can be intimidating. So if you're comfortable, and we here talk about moving beyond your comfort zone, the thing is, there's a reason that is called the comfort zone. Because there you feel safe, you understand what's happening, you know how to navigate, you know how to be successful in your comfort zone. Once you move beyond the boundary of your comfort zone, there's no guarantee that you're going to realize the same level of success. There may be some instability, there may be a loss of job security or other forms of security. And so that's why there tends to be apprehension associated with moving outside of our comfort zone. However, having said that, growth, development, learning, all those things take place outside of the comfort zone. So there are many reasons why we need to move outside of our comfort zone, but that doesn't negate that cause us some level of discomfort.
How do I find the attitude to propel me toward that change? How do I go about doing it mentally and physically?
Great question. And it really does start with the mental before you get to making any physical change. And so we start with the why. If you have a compelling reason, a compelling purpose for participating in the change, then you're more likely to initiate the change and to stick with it even when the going gets tough. So we begin with creating a why for the change. So let's imagine that you are the manager in the situation and you've been notified by the employer from the senior folks within the organization that a change is required. It's important for you to be able to understand first for yourself why change. Have an awareness of what is driving change. So that's step one, and you need to be able to appreciate it for yourself, but also to be able to articulate it, to explain it to those whom you lead. And the why needs to be compelling. For change to take place, the forces for change need to be more than the forces that are causing a resistance to the change. So that's step one, creating an awareness of the need for the change. However, having said that, awareness is, while a necessary condition, may not be a sufficient condition to induce change. So after you have the awareness of the need for change, you then need to cultivate the desire for the change. And part of how you can accomplish that is moving from the macro why to having a personal why. So what's in it for me? Why should I be willing to contribute to participate, to support this change? So awareness followed by desire. The next change that needs to take place to prepare you for the change is for you to know how to change. You can be aware of the change, you can want to change, but you simply don't know how to change. And that's where it may come into. For example, the change in question is a migration to a new software application or platform or use of new equipment. You need to be trained how to use that equipment, how to use that application. So keeping track, we have awareness, desire, knowledge. The next thing is the ability to change. So you can know how to change, But are you able to change? Are the circumstances conducive to effecting and sustaining the change? Do you have the skills to effect the change? So awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and the final step is the reinforcement, because there's a tendency to revert to what was comfortable, to revert to the comfort zone. So there need to be systems in place to reinforce the change, to ensure that it sticks and becomes the new way, the new normal.
In this reinforcement, one also has to seek brutal honesty, as you were saying in your first aid manual. Now, a lot of us prefer the softer version. A lot of us actually prefer the little white lie to the whole honest truth about, you know, you're not doing it the right way. So how do we get that paradigm shift to come about?
Okay, I would say begin with the end in mind, because if your goal is to effect change, little white lie help you to effect the change. If not, then why are you working at counter purposes? So feedback can be honest without being brutal. So it's about how, not just what you have to communicate, but the how of the communication. And so there's another chapter that we'll get to later in the series that tells us how to give feedback effectively. But suffice it to say that we, at this point in time, will say that the feedback needs to be objective. So it's about things that you have observed. It needs to be verifiable, because you don't want to get caught up in a he said, she said, because, you know, that goes nowhere really quickly. So it's important to be accurate with your feedback, to be objective with your feedback, and to be compassionate with it as well. Because at the end of the day, the feedback that you're giving is about the behavior. We do not advocate giving feedback on somebody's personality, because that's counterproductive. Okay. For the most part, people in the workplace, they like themselves. All right, so if you start giving them negative feedback about personalities, they're going to get defensive. Besides, the personality doesn't matter. It's the behavior. You can have whatever personality you have, as long as the behavior is conducive to what we're seeking to accomplish in the workplace. So use valid, objectively verifiable information in providing the feedback. Be compassionate and sensitive to the feelings of others. We spoke about emotional intelligence in an early episode. So those would be my key pointers in terms of feedback. And one more, context. All right, reinforce the why, because remember, that's how you got people on board with the change in the first place. So give them the context, the feedback in the context of why we're doing this and how your contribution will help us to achieve that goal.
I want to thank you so much, Joan Underwood, for those tips on how to become change able. We want to thank you kindly for joining us.
And thank you as well, Wendy.
Most welcome. When we return on Morning Barbados, we'll be talking with the NCF, and it's all about music and how we're getting onto other platforms.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Welcome back. We're going to be taking a look at NCF's music distribution cluster. And to help us with that is Miss Lisa Howell, who is the coordinator of that music cluster at the National Cultural Foundation. Good morning to you, Lisa.
Hi, good morning, Wendy.
Good morning. It's been a while since I've seen you.
I know.
Now, we're talking music and distribution. Now, the NCF is offering our local musicians the opportunity to be able to sign up on this particular cluster to assist them in getting their music out there and available on the international distribution platform Tooncore. Tell us what is Tooncore and how Tooncore can take us to the other places that we know of, like iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, Tidal, YouTube Music.
Okay, Tooncore is a digital distribution platform, and the platforms that you just mentioned, like iTunes and Amazon, Tencent, quite a few, they cover and distribute. So basically, Tooncore gets your music to the major digital platforms in terms of distributing your music.
Okay.
So it's actually the best choice because there are quite a few platforms that they do have for distribution. But the reason why Tooncore was chosen is because the cultural practitioners get to benefit from 100% sales from their downloads and streaming.
So what makes me eligible to get on this online stream platform as a local musician? What do I have to do?
You must be a cultural practitioner, registered cultural practitioner with the NCF, and have recorded a single or an album within the last 6 months to a year.
Okay, so if I'm not current, then I'm not eligible.
I believe you can register with the NCF as soon as possible in terms of the cultural foundation. In terms of being a practitioner, once you register as a practitioner, would have recorded any or last year, you will be eligible.
Okay. Now, what are some of the additional opportunities? Because I understand NCF is offering this free of cost to these musicians. So we don't actually have to pay those registration fees to be able to earn.
Absolutely. Let me just give you an overview. Basically, within the last year, a lot of practitioners have been submitting for funding as it relates to having their music available digitally. One of the things that the NCF recognizes that there was a deficiency in that area as it relates to artists having their music readily available to be marketed globally. And so they funded and supported those projects for them because quite a few people submitted for music videos, musical recordings. They also did submitted for like audiobooks, etc. So it's not only limited to music, but they pretty much assisted practitioners in having their materials readily available for global distribution.
Okay.
And this is the next step in assisting them even further in terms of having their music ready for the actual edition. So it's actually funding each sold will be $75 US for publishing, $10 for the distribution, and $10 for collection of royalties from YouTube, Facebook, etc. And advance make it to each single. For the albums, it will be $7 for publishing, $30 for the actual distribution of the album, and $10 for the collection of royalties through YouTube.
Okay.
So again, it is being quite generous.
I understand that those who are really keen on getting on board can have access to a Q&A sometime tomorrow. Tell us a bit about that.
We have a Zoom meeting, which we're looking at also fees. So you can register at ncf.bb as possible because it's a first come, first served basis. And we're looking to have like singles and 10 albums. So it is important that you register as soon as possible.
Okay.
And that will be tomorrow. The first Zoom meeting for the facts and questions will be tomorrow, Thursday, the 21st, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay, and for those of you who want more information about it, you can also email Mr. Andre Hoyt, the Senior Business Development
Andre
Officer,
Hoyt.
yes, at the NCF. And we can reach him at Andre, A-N-D-R-E, hyphen Hoyt, at ncf.bb. And the website, Lisa, for ToonCore, I believe is https://www.tooncore.com. So let's hope that a lot of them sign on with their singles and this marvelous opportunity that NCF is giving.
No, let's just be clear. You have to register with the NCF.
Yes.
NCF.bb. Yes, and then we will take it from there.
Okay, well, here's the best of luck
Yeah.
to you and all of our artists out there, because we know everyone wants to be making some money in these times.
Definitely, definitely.
Yes, and this section was brought to you by the National Cultural Foundation, their music distribution cluster. We had with us Miss Lisa Howell. Thank you so much, Lisa, and best of luck to you once more.
Thank you.
When we return on the Morning Barbados, we'll be talking to you about that institution in Waterford, Calmere.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning and welcome back to Morning Barbados. It's time for us to fan the flame because that's the theme of this year's Combermere Week from October 24th through 29th. And I want to welcome the president of the Combermere School Old Scholars Association, Mr. Mark Inks. Good morning to you, Mark.
Good morning, Wendy. Good morning, Barbados, and a special good morning to all of those from the University of Waterford.
Yes, we all know, up and on, yes?
Up and on.
Okay, now let's talk a bit about some of these activities that we have planned for fanning this flame. We're first going to be dealing with the spiritual flame and the kindling of the flame.
Correct. So the spiritual flame is a church service at St. Patrick's Church. That's at 5 p.m. on Sunday, October the 24th. This is a special service for Combermereans simply because of COVID and the numbers. We thought we needed to have a special service so that we can accommodate as many people as possible. We have room for 75. Anyone interested in attending the church service can send an email to me at our president at csosabarbados.com, or they can call me on my cell 266-9999.
Okay, and the kindling is all about showcasing that talent that we know Combermere has.
Lots of talent, lots of talent. So kindling will be a action-packed, probably an hour and 45 minutes. We have a steel pan, we have a small band, we have a lot of singers, dancers, violins, you name it, we have it. It's going to be featuring a lot of music that is either produced or sung by Combermereans. I think everyone in Barbados and the world probably knows by now that Rihanna is a Combermerean, so expect a lot from that particular event. It's going to be fantastic, off the chain, as they would say.
Okay, you're also going to be looking at something which a lot of us have been thinking about during the pandemic, and that's the whole issue of agriculture and how we're going there. So you're going to be having a webinar. Damien Hines, that's a name I'm familiar with. He's associated with ICA. And tell us about entrepreneurship opportunities in agriculture.
Well, and I think Damien will do just that. As you rightly said, during COVID, a lot of people have turned to agriculture to get some extra dollars or to prop up their income. And Damien has been doing a lot of work with Recurrent and throughout Barbados on that front. So he's now going to impart a lot of that knowledge to common mayors that join that webinar. It will be informative, and I suggest that everyone should attend if you're thinking about making a little extra dollar for this particular time.
Now, you're also going to be looking to focus on those currently at the school as well as other students within the system and the whole return to school in this pandemic time. Why did you see that as something key to discuss?
Well, we've heard it over and over again, and I myself have 2 children that have been dealing with online learning during this pandemic. And I personally have seen the impact that it has had on the kids and their mental health. So we thought that this would be ideal at this particular point in time because of the fact we're going through a pandemic. We started this new term remotely, and obviously that's something the kids are not necessarily enjoying. So we're hoping to provide parents and kids, if they join that particular webinar, with some tools that can help them to get past these tough times. We all are dealing with this particular stuff. Even adults that are working from home actually have certain mental issues simply because of the fact that they're working remote for such long spaces of time. So I think it could benefit anyone at this particular point in time.
Okay, then we're going to be doing the flame starters. You're not leaving out cricket, which is something that Common Mayor is known about. You're going to be touting that flag once more as you talk about your legacy on the cricket landscape.
Sure. We have a very bright and legacy so when it comes to cricket, and I think everyone is aware, especially recently. I mean, you can go back to the West Halls and the 7 weeks and stuff, but you can also talk about the current crop of the Craig Barfords, Scott Barfords, the Shane Bopes, and those type of people. So from back in the day to now, we've had a strong legacy when it comes to cricket. So we're going to have people like Sir Wells, Ricky Alcott out of England, Henderson Springer, Bruce Cox, and Craig Barford, once his schedule permits, on a panel, and that panel is going to be, the moderator for that will be Dr. Andy Ford. So all about cricket and Common Mayor and Common Mayor's legacy to cricket in Barbados and the West Indies.
You left out the legend in Hendy Bryan, though, and you also left out Warwick Can, who's appeared on the West Indies team. I mean, if we're boasting about them, let's talk about all of them. Yes?
Well, I thought we only had 5 minutes or so.
Oh, we do, but you can't leave out. You can't leave out the bowlers. Bowlers are just as important as the batsmen in cricket. Yes?
I agree.
Good. Let's not leave them out. And your final thing, the grand reunion. Now, I myself have been to many a Common Mayor reunion because of the myriad of friends I have who've gone there. My sister went there, my brother went there, my son went there. But you all can't gather. So tell us how you're doing it virtually.
Well, yeah, so we're going to have a virtual event, and it's going to start off with, going through the years of Calypso and Common Mayor's contribution to Calypso, and that will be narrated, but DJs will also be playing music. And then we're going to break out into, I guess, what some people term, a kind of stand-home party. I would say stand-home reunion / party. We're asking people to come, to wear their ties, to come up with some banners, posters, to rep the sets. However you feel you want to celebrate, celebrate. This is our month. October 24th to the 29th is our week, Common Mayor Week. So we are asking everyone to get on board, be a part of that event. You'll be able to say hi to people that you know, that maybe people you haven't seen for a while. But as you said, it is going to be different. We would normally, as you rightly said, have a big reunion at Common Mayor, and tons of people, even non-Common Mayors, as you rightly said, would attend, simply because it is such a grand event.
Okay. Well, we wish you all the best, up and on to you, and fan that flame. That's Mr. Mark Ince, who is the... Yeah, pardon me?
No, I just want to say if people need any more information, they can always just go to the website at csosabarbados.com, and we'll have everything up there from tomorrow posted so that you can join any and all of those events.
Well, here's the best of luck to you as you carry out your week of activities, Mark, and do enjoy them.
Thank you, Wendy.
You're most welcome. Morning Barbados will be back in a bit. Oh, no. Yes, sorry. The pink ribbon competition, which we spoke to you about last week, 5 days of finding that ribbon. Now, we're going to recap for you exactly some of those areas so that you can send your entries in. All 5 landmarks, remember, must be sent on the dates they were shown to Mornin Barbados, MORNIN Barbados, at cbc.bb by the 29th of this month. Right. We also have to thank our sponsors who've helped us with these landmarks. Okay, we have landmark number 1 here. Where was number 2? Yes, you have to find out where in Barbados these landmarks are, and they are all landmarks. Here's number 3. Oh, I believe this is a church steeple here. Guess where this one is? And the final one, where does this chair sit? So those are your 5 landmarks that you need to remember on the specific dates that they were given. Each landmark, don't mix the days with the dates. And the sponsors, Abed's, Stanswell Scott, Crane Beach Hotel, Emerald City and Carlton and A1 Supermarkets, and the Bougainvillea Beach Hotel. And you can join us tomorrow for landmark, the other landmark, as we continue to celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So send those entries in by the 29th of this month. Now, the vaccinations for today will be done at the Eunice Gibson Polyclinic from 9 until 6:30, the Princess Margaret Secondary School from 9:30 until 2:30 in the afternoon, Sharon Moravian Church Hall in St. Thomas from 9:30 until 4:30 p.m., and Mile and a Quarter Seventh-day Adventist Church in St. Peter from 10 a.m. until 2. The Masonic Center continues to be there for the vaccinations from 10 a.m. until 2:30. Christchurch Parish Church Hall in Christchurch from 10 a.m. also until 2:30. And there's also building number 2 at the Harbor Industrial Park from 10 until 6. So you can go a little later if you didn't get the 2:30 or 4:30 closures. Now, there are also some pop-up clinics that we'll be having. The National Housing Corporation is doing a drive-through service, and it's going to be facilitated from 10 until 5. The Chalky Mount Wesleyan Holiness Church in St. Andrew from 10 until 5, and the St. Mark's Resource Center in Blades Hill, St. Philip from until 7. So those are your special pop-ups if you can't get to an actual center. And the mobile unit will be in Fontebelle at Hanchel Innis from 1 until 4. Right, so it's time now to wrap for today's Morning Barbados. Tomorrow we'll have more interesting news, events, and individuals to bring to you. I'm Wendy Burke. Do enjoy your morning.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.